Welcome to the first Miami Heat Beat podcast of the second half of this season. I'm your host, Giancarlo Navas, and with me today, favorite 2K coach Franky.
Stream Beat co-host and co-founder, and our Twitch stream is not showing right now.
That is interesting. Oh, but can you hear us? Can y'all hear us?
I think they can.
They can hear us, but they can't see us. Listen. Oh, there we go. A new hero appears. There we go. And if you're watching on twitch.tv/MIAHeatBeat, we thank you for the patronage. We thank you for the support. We thank you for coming on. If you're a podcast listener, thank you for listening, downloading, and make sure that you come on the Twitch stream so you can participate in chat. That's fun. Chat's giving me a hard time. They're giving me grief, but it's okay. On the bottom of the screen, we have the great Siobhan.
What's up, guys?
How's it going? How was break?
It's been good. It's been really good, actually.
It feels like chat saying that they want to go back when they can't see me, that they like that better, and that my mic's super low.
Rude. Stop it.
Solana said to turn up your mic, G.
I did. We are back up. And we are back for the second half of the season. We have some fun stuff going on. A couple announcements at the top. We're going to be scheduling a watch party. If you're a Patreon subscriber, be on the lookout for a post. We're going to pick what day we're going to do we're going to pick what day we do a watch party, so you can come, you can hang out with us, you can watch some basketball. I'm going to be there. I know that some other people, you'll hear some other MHB personalities be involved with that. So be on the lookout on our Patreon for that. The other thing I wanted to tell you guys about, and it's something that we've been doing for the last week, we partnered with Locker Room, and they have we're kind of doing this thing on this Locker Room app where we go on and we kind of host little rooms and we talk about stuff. And Alf and I have been doing recovery time, which is the morning after every basketball game. We're doing it twice a week. We'll always tweet it out. So download the app if you're on iOS and come join us. You can talk to us. It's like a back and forth. Siobhan's on a bunch. I know Franky's been on. We made fun of Jack because all Jack did all weekend was make locker room rooms.
That's random rooms at obscure times in the morning.
I woke up, it was like Saturday. I went to go buy bread at a bakery, and it's like 8:30 in the morning, and Jack's doing one with the Kais on Bam Adebayo. I was like, what's going on, Jack? What are you doing? So we're doing that. And also for our Patreon subscribers, so we didn't know what to do with the audio because we can keep the audio. And then what we wanted to do was kind of upload those locker rooms to our Patreon feed because we weren't going to like bomb you with podcasts. So what we were going to do is kind of upload those. So we're going to, for our $5 patrons, you'll get a little extra. All right. So kind of getting that out of the way, chat's making fun of me for buying bread at a bakery. It was weird dough in Key Biscayne. It's quite good. No, it's quite good. It's a really good bakery in Key Biscayne. It's really nice. I got like a cacao pepe bread, which is with like some pecorino, some pepper bread. It was really good. I was about that. Nice Saturday morning brunch. So on the docket today, and I know, Siobhan, you have takes about this.
Not really. Just feelings.
So the Heat, Blake Griffin was made available. Gonna sign with the Nets. The Heat were reportedly interested, as they are, the entire league. And the Heat struck out on another guy. Now, I know we're all gonna get to our feelings on Blake, but
yeah,
I kind of think they dodged a bullet, and I know that Siobhan, I know you've had some feelings.
Yeah, I don't. So I mean, of course, I get it. Brooklyn is what seems to be the path of least resistance. To the ring, to a chip. I don't know. And then maybe this is a testament to Tiff and I talk a lot. Shout out Tiff about whether or not Blake is actually as unhealthy as he looks. Or it's just, in an unhappy destination, this, that, and the third. And I don't know how much of the, how much fire is actually accompanied the smoke with the Blake rumors. And for that matter, all of the other guys that Miami finds themselves linked to. I'm just like, damn, like I just want, and not even to come to Miami. I just want dudes to maybe think more of themselves. I don't know, like want to contribute on a larger scale at, other contending types of teams. Is that probably a biased thing to say? It might be, but like I really feel that way. That like I don't know where else I would have wanted him to go. Who else on the East? Who else on the West? But it's like everyone. It just feels that everyone is going to flock to Brooklyn in a way that's kind of, on a nuanced type of way, kind of dissimilar to some of the other maybe moves that we've seen over the last few years as far as super team formation, and maybe not because of course Golden State are what they are. I don't know. I'm happy for him. If he's happy, cool. That's what matters. Shout out to D Wade when he backed Harden for everyone came in and shat on him, and Harden made the move that made him happy, and he's running around and cheesing and cameras and stuff. And so if that's what it is, then absolutely by all means. But like, dang, like I want to like I'm not, while Mo didn't, his plans didn't pan out the way that they were foretold that they would. He said no, I'll turn down some of the money again. I have no idea what Blake's numbers or contracts, any of that is. But like he wanted to be significant on a contender. Like he wanted to like help really, really get dudes over the hump. And maybe Blake does that for Brooklyn. They need some rebounding, some size, and some defense. So I don't know. I hope it works out. But yeah,
I think he's an interesting case because I think specifically with the Nets, they just have a vacuum at big, right? Like they have DeAndre and really no one else that they trust, right?
There's no one.
I think theoretically Blake makes sense as a backup center. He's never really played five in his career, but I think at this point, I think if he's going up against less athletic guys, I think if he's going up, he's a smart player. And I think he probably wanted to roll. He's like, because if he probably asked teams, right? Like if he asked the Heat, can you guarantee me a role? I'm sure that they would say, question mark, let's see. Right? Because
you don't think so? You don't think there would be a clearly delineated role for him if they went that far out to try to acquire him, that they didn't have, something in mind and for how to use him?
Yeah, and the reason why I say no is because now they have gone to this thing where they even don't play Precious a lot of times, right? Like they'll play Precious for like 10, 15, 10 to even less minutes, and he's gotten DMPs, and they just go Olynyk as backup five when they're healthy, right? So they'll play Bam and Olynyk, and then, one of them gets a spell, Precious plays a couple minutes, and then they play KO at the five, and they've kind of settled that as their big rotation. So I don't, and that's worked. That's been winning games, and it's kind of helped grease. So I look at Blake, and I'm like, well, for sure he's better than Chris Silva. I feel like we all agree on that, but I think in terms of like, hey, like, am I guaranteed 15 minutes a game on this team? I can kind of see where that could get dicey. I don't know, Franky, if you kind of agree with that. Franky, you're
I was waiting to see if you were gonna unmute me or if I did it because you muted me without me knowing me.
I can't. Yeah, because you have a crackling, so we're trying to provide the best experience for the listener.
That's fine. I understand that, but you muted me without me knowing while I was mid sentence, so like while I was about to speak. So
did I? No, it was before you spoke. Yeah, it was before you spoke.
It was right before I spoke, so I was talking. I thought you could hear me, and I'm like, wow, G's just talking over me.
That's so funny.
I definitely think he's somebody who could help. He even as a limited role, you know how much Miami likes to operate from dribble handoffs, from the elbows. That's Blake's forte. Like you can run offense through him. He's much more of a basketball player than Chris Silva is at their best, obviously. But even now, Chris Silva hasn't been able to play much all season because of injury. Shout out to Brass for saying the Chris Silva mom jokes. But it's definitely something that like in this COVID shortened season, like we've gone through the worst of the injuries. I don't think we've gone through all the injuries where it's likely somebody in the rotation still loses a couple games, and we need guys to fill that role. That bottom five of the roster can't be useless. You already have UD. You can't have Chris Silva not being worthless either. Like you need guys who can fill in minutes. And Gabe Vincent, Max Strus, all these guys for what they're worth. Like we shouldn't have to rely on them. If you can get an NBA guy as bad as Blake Griffin's been this season, hoping that in the contending for a playoff spot with a good team, that rejuvenates him. You need guys like that, veterans who know how to play basketball, so you're not relying on Gabe Vincent and hoping he gives you something, or KZ Okpala.
I think, like, I'd rather just try, like, hope and pray KZ's like what you need, because again, I don't know if Blake, I don't know that Blake's the solution, and I don't know Siobhan if they have extra 12 minutes a game to give him unless someone gets hurt. That's my thing. That's
I
like
mean,
where I am with that.
I so that may or may not be true, but like Franky said, we've seen, the frequency of guys getting hurt this season. So why not, make those types of fortifications? We had, the number of injuries that we had during the first half. Who's to say that it won't be the same, worse as things start to ramp up, intensity wise and, competition wise. So I think it would be foolhardy to not.
But that's a maybe. Like
everything's a maybe. Literally everything's a maybe. But we've seen it play out too often that, like, for it to still be a maybe. Yeah, okay, maybe guys get hurt. We've had guys get hurt and miss time. So everything's literally a maybe. You gotta go off your experience.
Are you gonna tell that to Blake at the negotiating table? Like, well, maybe if guys get hurt, you play.
Who cares? You say what you got to do to get him in, and then you do what you got to do.
You lie. So you are advocating.
You don't think Pat Riley's ever lied to get a guy on the team?
I think that
he lied to Mo Harkless.
Understanding. Well, I mean, they gave Mo a chance, and Mo did start, and it had to get cataclysmically bad.
Terrible.
For them to pull. They rode that out longer than they should have.
Absolutely. But that's the same thing. If they play Blake Griffin and he's no good, guess what? You can cut him. You're not married to the guy just because you signed him for the end of the season. If he's absolutely no good, you cut him. That's it. I'm
sure that they tried, and I'm sure that they talked, and he just felt that I have more of a role in Brooklyn than I would here, and that's where I'm at. Like, I'm not even like arguing the semantics of whether they got him or not. I'm like, if I'm him and I'm looking at the two situations, and he's not dumb, and I'm sure that he picked the role that the best chance to win a championship, and B, the one that he's like, I'm actually gonna like play here every night, like, for sure, because they need me. Me and Siobhan. I think Siobhan is doing the same thing, but we're pushing back that we need him too. That
right?
Okay.
See, I don't know that they do.
You have the last game we had KZ Okpala. Like, KZ Okpala has had to play a game, like, important minutes the last couple of games.
Have you felt more so, overall, good or bad, about the way that the season's played out so far?
I mean, given the COVID, I mean, obviously you can't be happy with how.
Given the COVID and the rest of the injuries, right? Like, I feel like it's too much to ignore the fact that Goran's still out, Avery's still out. Mo, when he did fall, landed smack on his hip. Like, for whatever reason, we have just been struck by the injury COVID bug that a lot of the rest of the same teams are. So, I mean, I don't know. I think they should be.
They're mad at me. They're like, they wanted Blake Griffin. They really wanted Blake, and so
maybe even Blake isn't the answer. My thing, I want people to go to places other than Brooklyn and LA.
Well, the LA one is annoying because the next guy we're going to talk about has been linked to the Lakers a little bit, and it's Otto Porter Jr. Out of Chicago. Chicago has kind of some rumbling that he might get bought out, which is a little annoying. And it's funny that you had the reaction with Brooklyn, because I had the reaction with LA. I was like, what the fuck are you going to go to LA for?
Hold on, like, Jay, really? I'm sorry. I want to cut you off. KZ Okpala played 17 minutes last game. Don't tell me Blake Griffin didn't have a fucking role here.
Yeah, that's a lot of minutes.
That is a lot of minutes, but he did play well.
And I know Bam was out, and yes, KZ did play well, but that's the thing. You want to not have to rely on Bam every single night. If Bam needs a breather, you can give him a breather. If you want, Iguodala should not be playing every night. Goran should be playing every night. Especially with back-to-backs coming up in the second half of the season. Like, you need depth, and we shouldn't have to rely.
I'd rather go after other guys than him, but I understand what you're
That's
saying.
fine. That's completely
I'm not arguing
too.
That they need
that's
depth.
fair.
I'm
too.
not. I think
I'd take other guys over Blake also, but I also think
I take Boogie over Blake. By the way, I would take Boogie over Blake.
Ooh, I don't know.
Like, given the same.
Personally, the way that I feel about Boogie, I think so. but that
I
might
like
be.
him a lot.
I like Boogie too, but
I think what you're also kind of overlooking, or what you relying so heavily on, G, is that the idea that you have to play Bam or Blake, and that there can never be, an overlap of minutes, that there can never be, synergy.
I think they play together. I think they play together.
Right. And so to say that he would only be relied upon should Blake be, or should Bam be out, or should we, suffer other injuries, I think, that's limiting in thought, that's limiting in, playbook creativity and a bunch of other stuff.
Yeah, you had Kelly play 37 minutes, which is something that I didn't mention either. And again, Bam was out, but Kelly should not have to play 37 minutes.
He was awesome.
In a game. Yeah, he was awesome. He was great.
He was awesome.
But Blake can give you some of what Kelly gives you. But again, it's over.
Shout out to Twisted Tapioca for the 5 gifted subs, and he subbed earlier through April. So shout out to Twisted. The other guy I really wanted to get to is Otto, because he's a guy that I do want. He's a guy that I feel is perfect for them. I like everything that he gives them. He's been a plus shooter this year for a team that has not been very good. I think defensively he doesn't look like he moves very well, which is a red flag to me, because if he's not healthy, then I don't know how much this team can help him, because and I've said this before. And Siobhan, I'm actually curious about how you feel about this as an athlete. Like, if you're getting a guy that's not right health-wise in a COVID season, I think the chips are going to be against you more than ever, because you don't have the same staff that you normally have as a player, right? Like, players have their masseuses, their chiropractor, they're this guy, they're that guy. And those staffs, I imagine, and this is not me reporting, just logic would say that in a COVID season, their staffs have been short. Okay, well, you can't, maybe they all share a masseuse, maybe they, you can't have that many people working on guys. And so I would caution against taking a guy that's hurt and being like, in a normal season, I think like, okay, we can rehab this guy because we trust our facilities, we trust our infrastructure. But now, like, you're not operating at 100%. So especially when there's no rest.
So based on that alone, and nothing else about player fit or type, then why are you so high on DeMarcus? He's
Oh, I'm not.
But you take DeMarcus over Bam or over Blake.
Yeah, I take DeMarcus over Blake.
Okay.
I think he's looked a little sprier.
Yeah, no, he has. I think he looks a little lighter, springier. To your point, I think you're right. Like, limiting or traveling parties are limited. Away trips now are longer so that they can get them all done in one swoop. Maybe you still have your personal guys on retainer or whatever. These guys have the money to have their guys at home, or for the most part, to have their guys at home tested in their therapeutics and this. But, I think you're right. You're limited to the amount of people they can bring with them, to, what therapies and, all of those things they have access to. So maybe, using another roster spot on a guy who could benefit from all of those extra services that we aren't really privy to at the moment might not be a good idea. But then you are also met with the reality that all of these guys have an injury, a nick, a knack, a something, there's pros and cons, and pros and cons also being, just as much as, player skill and fit also being health history. So I think it's tough either way, but it's going to be tough at this stage of the season, given the current global condition.
And Otto's a guy that has been hurt this year. He hasn't played in a while. The Bulls, I don't feel like they can't fuck around and not have a body. But he's a guy that's interesting to me, Franky, because I think in theory, again, like, we talk a lot about this team in theory. He's a guy that is low risk, that you can bring in with one of the many exceptions that you have left at your disposal, and you can promise him a role because they do need a power forward. And he's a guy that I feel can give them the shooting, give them the screening at the small ball 4, kind of let them run their horn sets in peace, because it's been tough sometimes when you have too many non-shooters and things like that. So, like, I like him a lot, and I'm sorry I muted you since you were buzzing really loud. Is he a guy that you like for this team?
Full disclosure. Jack killed me last time for doing this, but I haven't seen a single Otto Porter minute all season. Historically, Otto Porter, awesome fit for this Miami Heat team.
You gotta lie.
Just going off history.
We don't lie here.
Listen, I don't lie to the people. I don't make up Harrison Barnes propaganda and make up love for Kyle Lowry of all people.
I don't have makeup.
I don't got to do all that shit for fucking views and takes and all this shit like some unmentioned people. All right, I don't got to do that shit. If the people can live or die with what I say, but I'm gonna tell them the fucking truth. All right, Otto Porter. He's a guy. He's great cutter, great shooter, career 40% shooter from three. He can play small ball 4, which is exactly what this team needs. He can move off the ball. He's a reliable player offensively. Defensively, he's been hit or miss. Defensive stats hate him, but he can play that role. He's not as good as Jay Crowder was, but offensively, he's a lot better, a lot more consistent. And you hope, and he's better than what we have at the 4 right now. So absolutely, he can help. You hope the back injury. He hasn't played in a month, and you hope it's not that serious. I don't know when the last time he played. Like if he's been missing games because of injury, or if it's also because the team's been playing better without him.
He's sick of him.
They picked up Andre after having not played an old Andre after not having played an entire year. So a younger, more talented, piece like that. I don't see why not. What are his measurables? What's his height? What's his wingspan?
He's I'll put
6'8", 200 pounds listed right.
6'8". Why does he feel
has a big
longer
wingspan.
than that? Yeah, his arms must be long as hell. He feels longer than that.
7'1" wingspan.
That works. Yeah.
That's what we like.
Yeah.
Pause, Siobhan.
Stop it. And so while maybe the defensive stats hate him and he's not quite Jay in those areas on paper, maybe his measurables, maybe those things give him, more deflection opportunities, more, in the lane, in the gaps, and, maybe more contest at the rim.
Do you like him?
I don't dislike him. I don't watch him. So again, with Franky, from what I do know of Otto, from what I've seen his makeup, he feels like I don't know. How old is he? I want to see like what his maturation.
27.
I want to see what his maturation is and
contract year, Siobhan. This is another thing. He's got to be a free agent. He just got paid. He wants to get paid some more. I think he's a candidate. Like if he has a big postseason or something like that, he can get paid again.
He'd probably cash out. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's going to be motivated. Yep. You can give him the disabled player exception from Myers and try to like
7'5". What is that?
4'5".
4'5". What? I thought we had something else.
Yeah. Oh, it's a trade exception. No, she's talking about the trade exception, the 7.5. But that could make up some of the difference from the buyout that he's going to take. So hopefully that's enough, and you can even talk to him, say, hey, look, we'll re-sign you for a 1-year deal after this. And you can be motivated. Show me
an entire improvement year. Like finish out this season, then no, I need another consistent year of and that feels more reasonable than some of these other guys that we keep finding ourselves latched to,
pining over.
We're always fighting for mid-30s guys. This is a 27-year-old in his prime. Give me this guy. If you lock him up, give him a 2 years deal after this.
Mid-30-year-olds that don't really want us. It's like dudes are like taunting us now because they see how just fucking crazy and bloodthirsty this fan base gets. And so like it just feels like dudes like, oh yeah, Miami, that's somewhere I'll go, knowing that we're gonna eat this shit up, and they're just sitting back at home. That gif of Barack and Michelle in the White House and he's like tweeting and she comes like snatches. That's why I feel like other players around the league are doing with watching us fawn over every name that gets thrown out.
No, and I also feel like free agents are using Miami's name just to like get more from another team. Yeah, like hey, that's nice, but Miami's offering me this. What can you offer? Miami wants me. That's what I feel like that's what they're saying. I have no evidence whatsoever.
Maybe.
But if Pat Riley wants me, I would go to the negotiating table like that. It's like in college when you're getting recruited, you say, hey, Alabama offered me. And then everybody's throwing offers too. If Alabama likes what they see, then I don't know. I don't know better than Alabama. How many GMs think they know better than Pat Riley?
Yeah,
it's kind of weird because I think especially like from a fan base perspective, they got LeBron, Dwayne, and Bosh that one off season, And then from there on out, they got everyone they wanted. They got Ray Allen, they got Shane Battier, they got Rashard Lewis, right? Birdman, all these people that they wanted, they got. And then
go ahead. I'm sorry.
Like once LeBron left, that stopped happening. Like Jimmy's really the only guy since. Like I guess they got Joe Johnson, right? Joe Johnson was the guy in the buyout market that was really highly coveted. But I think that was a lot of Dwayne relationship, happening. And same with Jimmy. And they haven't. Let's really think about it. Like every major signing they've had, other than Luol Deng, has been really Dwayne Wade relationship building.
Wade driven.
And I'm absolutely sure Deng came because of Wade as well.
And Bosch. They were together. Yeah. And that was supposed to, and that was a good team. That team was a 3 seed, and there was a game away from the conference finals in which they had owned Cleveland all year. So right, like that was a good team. But the fan base kind of is a little entitled, and I hate to say that about our listeners.
So is Pat.
Truth, man.
So is Pat. Let's be honest. So is the front office. We're too good for Victor Oladipo.
Right.
Now, please,
he wants
Victor.
us too much.
Yeah, he wants us too much. Yeah. Oh, he didn't throw a fit like Jimmy Butler did in practice to get out of there.
Try hard. They love fits at practice. Goran and Jimmy.
No, it's totally fine when Jimmy and Goran do it, but let Victor do something differently. Right. Like that's not professional either. That shit's not professional.
But I think there's legitimate like health concerns with Depot. And you're right. Like I think that they have their eyes set on Giannis, on Beal, on these guys, and they really didn't, kind of have those marginal moves, which to an extent I understand. Like this is an organization that's about, they're not about conference title banners, right? They're about, confetti and champagne. I don't blame them. I understand. Part of it has bitten them in the ass, and sometimes it hasn't. So I get it, but I do think that there has been kind of an unreasonable expectation from the fan base that they have to get everybody. And then what happens is that I also think it just makes it easy to link Miami to everybody, because I do think the front office is aggressive, and I do think they do their due diligence and call about everybody, as a good front office should do. Orlando, we're going to get into Nick Vucevic. Orlando's a team that has been stuck in the mud for the last 5 years.
Yep.
They're clearly not going anywhere.
Yep.
And it would be stupid not to call them and say, hey, what's going on there? Are you looking to sell? Like, that doesn't mean that they're going to get these guys, but I think any good front office is going to do their due diligence to say, hey, what's going on over there?
Hey, bud, you guys okay over there?
You up?
Hey, Magic, you good? I think you're right. Like, but that's the thing too. You have to realize that, I don't know, there are other ways to skin a cat, like you don't necessarily need most times you don't really need, all of these whales of names. If you can get 2, 3 really, really solid, you have a Jimmy, you have a Bam, who call it what you want, say what you want, feel how you feel. Our top, 20 players in the league when they're on it, when they're healthy. And so you don't need to bring in a Giannis for that, because you have dudes who can, and like, what does that ultimately do for you other than kind of deplete your depth and all of these things? I think that there are more than marginal gains to be made by adding like really good, say third tier guys, rather than always looking for, the baddest bitch in the room.
Like part of that, and I think they've done a good job of that in like the margins. Like they've been exceptional at picking in the draft with late first rounders, with late lottery picks. Their undrafted guys have like always been good. I mean, going back to Bruce Bowen and Udonis, even more recently, to finding. We say what we want about Hassan. I mean, the dude was a productive player and is still in the league, right? A guy like Tyler Johnson, who was undrafted, who's playing a role with Brooklyn, who is a good basketball player despite the money that they gave him. Rodney Magruder, like they have found productive basketball players out of nowhere. They Duncan Robinson, right? They pull him out of thin air. Willie Reed. For a while here, like they're good at that. I feel like where they've struggled is kind of those middle acquisitions. I feel like they've struck out on a lot of those. They hit on Jay and Andre, which got him to the finals. But for the most part, I think that they've struggled with that. Part of it is because they reserve their space to go after, as Siobhan said, the baddest bitch in the room. But I get it. But I get why they do it, and it's also frustrating because they don't have to go after Beal, right? They can do a move like I mean, Larry Nance is a really good player, but they're not going to get Larry Nance, and they're not going to get Vooch, right? But it doesn't have to be an all-star level player. Yeah. Which kind of brings me to the Vooch point. It's like, I think he'd be great here. I just don't see what Miami can give Orlando. Like, and Franky, my thinking is, okay, Miami's going into this trade deadline because I don't think that they're going to move Tyler for anybody that's going to be available. Like, I think they're going to move Tyler for like a blue chip kind of like 1A option, right? Like Tyler is reserved for like the big trade for like, a star. And everybody else, I think what's on at the table is probably going to be Precious. It's probably going to be whatever first round pick that they can trade. I forget what year it is. They have one 2022 second round pick. They have salary filler, and I feel like that's about what they're going into. Maybe Kendrick Nunn. Like, that's about what they have at the offering table to get anybody. I don't know. Is there something else that you think that they'll offer? I look at what they have and I'm like, I think that's reasonable.
Well, for Vooch, I don't think it makes sense because I feel like Orlando's taking this as like a gap year. Like, they have ridiculously bad luck with injuries and stuff. They'll probably move on from like Fournier or whatever. And yeah, because just make something like he's probably gonna leave their team, so cash out and try to get something for him before he leaves. They'll probably make moves like that. But Vooch is locked in. He's just had an all-star season. He's playing great, and he's still in his prime and stuff. And he plays well with all the young guys like Fulton stuff that they expect back in the future. So I don't expect him to be available. And realistic. I think this team is just got to make marginal moves, like the buyout market, maybe a veteran like PJ Tucker or something like that. I feel like that's the realistic moves. I don't think they're gonna move Tyler. I don't think anybody's gonna want Kendrick. Precious, maybe, if they look to get something big. But you could even make a case that they shouldn't move Precious because he's young and developing, and he's been a good player. We talked about this in the chat, but we haven't seen much of a sample size of Precious and Bam. So, like, it's been bad in the 7 minutes that they played together, but that's not a sample size worth anything. So, you want to see what you have in this guy, and maybe it's something more than what he's shown so far.
Yeah, like chat's saying Rudy Gay, George Hill, DeMarcus Cousins, right? Like those kinds of things, which would help. I mean, I don't know if that takes you over the top to go to the finals. Siobhan, so I'm writing a piece about their offense. Mm-hmm. I've been watching a lot of their film and stuff, and kind of like what's different between last year and this year. And I look at the way that they move. I look at the stuff that they run. I look at the lineups that they throw out, and it's really tough to discern like what's like tangibly, what is like realistically and tangibly different other than Jay, and even pre-Jay. I was watching like some film with like Justice and what they would do with that, and it's like I don't know if they can just add a small piece and make all that work. But I mean, they're not that different, and yet nothing works. So I'm like at a loss.
And so it's weird. So you just said that they're not that far off. They're not, that much different than last year. But for whatever reason to you, it doesn't feel like a small move would be enough of a salve. And I don't know. I think personally, the things that I feel like are tangible differences that I know that I kind of beat, over maybe our audience's head with is, there's a different amount of toughness, there's a different amount of size, and there's a different amount of energy. And so all of those things combined, and I think really, really energy too, like a DJ, type alley-oop can kind of stymie or, help quell, a growing teams, momentum, and it can, kind of help get you to getting your own. Jay being able to guard up to, Jay would, make faces and, like just have a little bit more dog in them. I really, really believe that there is not enough, kind of that edge. There isn't enough energy. And I recognize what I believe that Jay and DJ offered us in size, and what a difference in size allows you to do schematically. Like, you can play DJ at the top of the zone and still have Bam in the back line because, you know, you have other areas of length who can maybe, cause some trouble defensively. So it's weird to watch. And also people have keyed in on the offense. Those same dribble handoffs, Duncan isn't flying open. Those are tangible differences. Like, other teams' improvements and adjustments stand to be tangible differences as far as, dictating a lot of your own personal results and outcomes.
Like, in regard to Derek, I was watching a play that they ran a handoff and they flipped it into a pick and roll, and Bam's going to the rim, and then DJ's man comes in to help, and then Goran just and they give it to Bam, and then Bam flips it to Derek, and he gets a lob, and he gets a dunk uncontested. And I was like, yeah, it'd be nice if Andre did that, because I mean, Derek and Andre are not dissimilar as shooters, right? Like, I think Andre is even a better shooter than Derek, right? Especially from the corners. You and I think the percentages will say that, and I think you're more confident with Andre, but Andre's just like, they're both just not defended. But Derek has that spring, and those are like kind of like those momentum plays that you're talking about. I will say about the defense, their defense is like legit good this year. I think that when I watch their offense,
mm-hmm.
they do. I think they do move with force, and I think they do move with purpose. I think, like, Duncan in particular is moving a ton, and I think, contrary to popular belief, he's cutting more this year, which surprised me. I felt like he wasn't cutting as much, but he is cutting more this year. The shots, just the percentage has just gone down a little bit. I think the contests have been a little better, like you said. They are switching a little more, but they run most of the same stuff, and I'm like, I do feel like there's energy there. But I don't have an answer. Like, I have to defer what you're saying, because what I'm watching, like, I see a couple things like, okay, well, they switched that kind of bogs down the offense. Oh, well, they're not guarding Andre in the corner, but you look last year and they were doing the same shit. You know what I mean? Like, they'd switch the handoffs and still they would get, Duncan hit a contested three, or they'd move, and like, Franky, I'm kind of at a loss.
Goran Dragić. This is, if we're being honest, this team as they've been playing is very similar to the pre-bubble Heat, with the frustrating losses, getting blown out by Atlanta, getting blown out by Charlotte. You had they were completely uneven. There was none of us expected the Heat to make a run in the bubble because the team looked like shit. Once they got to the bubble, Goran became rejuvenated. He stepped up his game. You had Jimmy, Goran, Bam, Tyler, and Duncan outperform their playoff season, their regular season numbers. They're all scoring more. They're all being more aggressive. But Goran, going into the starting lineup, was the release valve. Whenever Duncan couldn't get open on the dribble handoffs, they could swing it, run some pick and pop, and Goran was an isolation master. Jimmy Butler was aggressive. You had the pull-up three from Goran. Everything was functioning differently because Goran was a 20-point-per-game scorer in the playoffs and was aggressive as can be. And that was what we're missing. That's what we're missing. We don't have a guard that can get that separation, that can create that extra offense when Duncan and the dribble handoffs aren't going. We're running more dribble handoffs this season than last year. And teams also have seen it a million times, so they're learning how to defend it. And you need Bam and Tyler to grow up this season. And Bam's been a lot better than he was last season, but he's not at the level consistently that we need him to be. He hasn't grown into that role. Tyler has improved as well, but he still isn't a pull-up artist from three that really makes a defense pay attention to where he's at and where he's scoring and trying to stop him. So there's possible answers in the future. Maybe Tyler and Bam can get there, but the answer last year was Goran. And I have no faith that Goran can do it again just because he's older. He's coming off that bad injury. He looks slower. I think he can do it for a couple games. I don't know if we can count on him to do it for the rest of the season and for the playoff stretch. I want him to do it because I want him to get another chance at that ring. But realistically, it's unlikely.
They're very Jekyll and Hyde because last season it was the defense that they legit couldn't guard anybody. Their defense was not good, even with Jay, and even when they started doing the switching. I mean, they were getting torched every night, and their offense was in the top 10, right? And now it's the opposite. Their defense is amazing. They're in the top 10, and they can't fucking score. And it's weird. And it's like I see the defensive changes that have helped. I think playing Andre more helps a lot. Bam is just a better defender, and Jimmy's Jimmy. And I think that them kind of putting Jimmy off ball a little bit. They're running the same principles though, defensively, but on offense it's just gone haywire. And maybe it's just as simple as, you know, Tyler and Duncan aren't hitting at the same clip as last year, and that's really, and Kelly, and that's it right there. Because I mean, Kelly's fumbling open shots. Duncan's fine. Duncan's not the problem. He's shooting 39% on like incredible volume. That's gonna happen, and I think if other guys start hitting shots, he'll get a little more free. He's like one of the best contested 3-point shooters in the league, which is funny. He's like shooting more contested jumpers, and he's like hitting them at a really high clip. But you know, they're contested jumpers, so I think if the offense opens up a little bit, the shot quality will go up, and he'll get his percentage, I think, pretty close to where he was last season. But Tyler has been really a black hole at the 3-point line. I mean, he's improved lately. I think he's up to like 34% or 35% for the year, Siobhan. But like, if those guys aren't hitting shots on an offense predicated on motion and screening and popping and slipping, like, is it just make or miss? Or
and an offense predicated on motion, screening, and popping for those specific guys, yes. Like if the rest of the people on the floor, you know, aren't if our plays are designed for, you know, the action around the horn. When that's not happening, and we don't have enough, you know, Jimmy Bam to, you know, take in and do their own things, then I don't know. I think that this is kind of the result, right? And it is so very strange. Like the eye test and what their numbers tell you don't feel like they match. For me personally, like you say defensively, they're a better team this year. I hear you say that, but I also see them like having to recover more and help more for each other than maybe I would like them to be. Yeah, we're a good defensive team because Bam has gotten better and he's taken on a lot of that defensive role. Jimmy is Jimmy, and he's going to take, you know, the defensive role that he needs. And, you know, I'd be remiss, you know, Duncan has gotten much better defensively this year. His spatial defense, his you know, kind of defensive court awareness is much improved. But the offensive, you know, stagnation is, excuse me, my roommate's coming.
All good.
The offensive stagnation is just going to be a product of what it is, because this is the offense that we're running at the moment, and these guys, you know, are hitting, and it's kind of is what it is. What
do they do when, you know, when they run Horns and Kelly pops and Bam or whoever rolls? What happens when they just don't guard Kelly? Because I feel like we're dangerously close to that happening, because he's still guarded as a shooter. Mm-hmm. And the day that they Andre him, like the New Orleans did a weird thing with Jimmy where they were stapled to him in the corner when they would run sets, and Jimmy was not the screener or Jimmy was not the pick and roll handler. He was in the right corner, and BI or Hart were like attached to him. And I was like, that's interesting. I don't know if I do that. Good teams leave him open. That's and I know Stan to be a good coach, but like when teams are gonna be like, well, I'm not gonna guard you, Jimmy, because you suck as a shooter, and if you hit it, that's cool. And if Kelly, eventually they'd be like, you know what, you could take that. I don't care. You've been shooting like 27%, and I don't give a fuck if you hit shots. You're not gonna. I haven't seen you hit shots in like 2 months. That's a problem.
Yeah, like so somebody's gonna be like, oh, you're not gonna beat me hitting open threes. You're not gonna hit enough open threes to beat me. So
that's like the boogeyman in the modern NBA. But like I feel like it's coming.
I mean, possibly. I also want to like dive into something on that. We're like we recognize this team isn't as good as last year. Right now, they don't look as good. But also, it's a short sample right now. It's half a season. I just want to give you one frame of reference. Last year, the Heat were the second best three-point shooting team in the league, 37.9%. That total right there would be 10th this year. Teams are shooting ridiculously high from three. The Clippers are shooting 42% as a team. The league as a whole, they're just shooting better.
That's what I'm saying. We're talking so much about what we are lacking or what's changed within our own organization without taking into account that other people are just getting better.
Yeah, and it's still early too. Like,
it is still early.
Maybe Kelly has a blistering second half of the season, gets closer to his career averages, and balances that out. Maybe Duncan goes as well. Maybe Tyler. Like, some of these guys are just due to balance out. What's that thing? The water
always finds its level.
Exactly.
It always finds its level, Alec.
When the rubber hits the road.
I like when the rubber hits the road. Are you out on the road? I like that. That's a good phrase.
Gee, I think schematically, I think it's interesting where you're talking about the difference in how most teams tend to guard Jimmy and how New Orleans and Stan guards Jimmy, where, conventionally, you leave, the dude that's the least of a shooting threat open. And that allows you, to give more bodies to the rest of the guys on defense, right? I think I understand Stan's approach with that, because even if Jimmy's not, that great of a shooter, you playing off of him still allows some freedom of motion to then come to the ball. And he's smart enough to know he isn't that good of a shooter. So he's going to take up that space, get to the cup, or, get to the ball first, and then, operate and do that. When you have a guy kind of spine him, almost like not a boxing one, but you just have like that one dude attached to him regardless of whatever anybody else is doing. Like, you limit his freedom of motion, and whether he's a good shooter or not, you just kind of ice him and take him out to play, rather than, he can get it because he's not gonna make it.
Yeah. I thought like that game was kind of funky because they had Steven Adams guard Andre, right? So either he would be parked in the corner with Andre, and then what he did was they started putting him in pick and roll, which I thought was kind of funny because like conventionally you want to take the big out of it.
I have to rewatch it. I would love to rewatch that game, actually.
It was interesting. Like, you should watch from like the fourth quarter, like when Jimmy checks back in that fourth quarter on. Like, there's a lot of weird stuff going on, and so they put Steven Adams on Andre, and then Andre starts screening for Goran in pick and roll, because they had gone Jimmy pick and roll every time, and then Hart is coming at the level of the screen. Jimmy's slipping, and he's getting layup after layup. He missed one layup, and then he made the other one, and they were just getting really good looks every time Jimmy was slipping because they were committing to kind of coming up on that screen. Then they were kind of vacating. They were doing the vacate Andre thing, and then now they had Andre kind of come up to screen with Steven Adams on him, and then they had Jimmy in the corner with they put Ingram on him. And I thought that was interesting. And they were getting dunks. I mean, that was that one that Andre slipped open for the dunk in open space and everything. And that's interesting. And that's just something that they can do when Bam's not there, because Kelly is not the screener there. And they didn't run their horn stuff, which I thought was interesting. And they ran much fewer handoffs. They did run their handoff stuff, but it was like less horns, less handoffs, more kind of Jimmy and Andre screening for ball handlers, more kind of north-south action. I thought that was interesting. And part of that's like Bam's not there, and when Kelly's there, I think he gets to play a little more freely. I know that the numbers are good when they both play together, but that was a funky game.
Most definitely. And one of the Spo's favorite adjustments when they start when they stop paying attention to perimeter guys is to go to the dribble handoffs too. You do the dribble handoff for Duncan, and Duncan's getting open because the big is dropping so far off, not helping off of Jimmy or Andre. So that it's good adjustment by Spo, just to make sure if you're not going to guard Jimmy, I'm going to make sure you're not able to guard Duncan and get going like that. So I think the second half of the season, they have a lot of Spo can definitely make some adjustments there to help Duncan get freer, to get Kelly more rhythm shots, and get him involved when he's not just a spot up guy. Because I think we've seen plenty of times that Kelly can affect the game positively when he's not hitting shots. He doesn't just have to be a spot up guy, and if he's not hitting shots this season, he needs to be a positive somehow, because we're not getting positive value out of a lot of the guys on the roster right now.
To your point before, we do tend to trend at the proper time. We tend to find our stride, find our peak, and get all of the gears of the machine tend to find themselves well oiled at the really right time. So like I said, just starting the second half. So there's definitely there's opportunity.
And Spo's teams too. How many times do we see Spo have a much better second half coming off the All-Star? We've seen it throughout the Big Three era, through 15-16, 30-11. Like Spo responding in the second half has been a constant. He tinkers with the lineup so much and the rotations that he's going to find something that works and stick to it. We just got to hope for a couple additions, minor or major, and hopefully major. But help the team find their rhythm and get going. I'm pretty confident this team is making the playoffs. I wouldn't bet a house on it, but you're the one who's owning a house or a condo right now. Shout out to you, by the way.
Closing in a couple weeks. Let's go.
But yeah,
Moose are gonna be neighbors.
Oh God.
I'm gonna hear drip drop from my window.
I want you to throw something at him when he says it. No, but I'm fairly confident the team's going to make good second half adjustments, and the guys are going to play better and more comfortable. They have a point to prove. That last year wasn't a fluke. That Bam and Jimmy should have been all-stars. They have a lot of things to prove in the second half.
A couple things before we get out of here because we're running on time. Jimmy, Bam, and Goran have played 79 minutes this season. They're +5 per 100 possessions. That's good. That's good. They're trending up. They were actually a negative before everything bad happened. They were like a -2 or something. It was something funny that they were just like getting outscored with the three of them. That has been trending upward. Jimmy and Goran together without Bam has been really good, and I think part of that you saw in that game, kind of the space they're afforded. Jimmy as a screener, who's a very, very good roller. They're +14 per 100 possessions with a 114 offensive rating. That's really good. I will say this about Spo. He is a very flexible coach. I think that we've seen him throw new things into the offense. They know it's a problem, and I think that with this organization and with this coaching staff specifically, we know that they're going to do whatever they can. I think even if it's scheme, they'll change it. I don't think they have much of a choice other than to run handoffs, just because they just don't have the pick and roll guys. I'm sure that he would want to run more pick and roll, but I don't really think that they have enough guys considering their personnel. I do think the rotations have been really, really good lately. I think they've figured out some stuff. They have a starting lineup they like. They have their lead guard off the bench that they like. They have kind of stumbled into this Kelly at the 5 with Andre at the 4 and shooters, which has been really, really good for them. And they just use Andre as a screener in those sets, and they can have Kelly space and cut and finagle stuff, and they can run horns with Andre and Kelly. Like they do a lot of fun stuff together. And I do think that they've settled into some rotational things and have given a couple injuries here or there. I think they know that with the roster they have, they know the guys, and I feel good about the second half. I feel good. I'd bet my house on them making the playoffs. I would even say that they're going to be in play for a home seed. Let's see. They have already gone through their COVID stretch. Thankfully, they have come out of it 500. I hope, right? Hopefully. Well, I guess the thing is like, Bam's had it. And then Jimmy got it.
Doesn't matter. KD had it last. KD had it last year. He missed time twice this season.
Yeah, but it's not as long. Once you get it right. The problem with Jimmy was Jimmy got really sick.
We still don't know. Right. So imagine like getting it twice, lasting effects, all that. That's not something that you want to really.
Yeah, and it's just being exposed to it that could get you suspended. So we hope that nothing else happens. But you don't know.
I want these guys to be healthy and okay. Like,
what the fuck happened in Toronto? Like, 8 of them just
the coaches. It was the coaching staff. A coach got sick, and then he got the other 5 coaches sick, and then they had a fucking outbreak.
This is what happens when you go to Hooters with the boys.
I would love to end on that joke, but I have a quick rant about the way that we cover COVID. I don't know if I've mentioned this on the pod. I've given private shows to all my friends, but like.
Phrasing.
Players are often blamed. Yeah, they listen. They get an earful. They get, we blame players. They hate me. My friends are so sick of me.
Earful of what?
An earful of takes. My hot takes. Kill my momentum. They, we always criticize players, or like I think the public kind of looks at players and be like they're responsible for like, oh, it's all-star, the players better behave, or oh, the players are having people over, or oh, the players this, the players that. But it's never the coaching staff, it's never the trainers, it's never the organizational staff that's around the team. It's never referees don't have like they don't have the same rules as players, right? And we don't
Yes,
know
they do.
when they do.
Yes.
Well, I think it was Andrew Bogut on the on his podcast claimed otherwise.
Fake news, Bogut. Don't trust that guy.
Fake news. Wow,
They're
Bogut,
supposed
fake
to.
news.
But-
So refs are not. Because from what I understood, refs were allowed to go out when they were in the city that their union had argued that they could.
Oh, see,
go
I
out.
don't know if that's a recent development or not. I know last that I know that like even when refs are home or in their home cities, they're not even supposed to really be out and about in their hometowns. So I don't know what
But people
they would be
people
able to
don't
do.
people don't know when a ref tests positive. Like we know when the players do. So I think the players often get, and we wouldn't know. And I don't know. It's just more of like I feel like it's.
I mean, it's probably something that the refs don't tell the media, or the media won't know.
Yeah.
But I'm sure.
Yeah, no, I'm sure
the
that's
players
I heard.
probably know. Like the teams probably get a notice that this referee.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just to be careful.
What you're speaking to the G though, like that can be.
No,
said
it's just in
about
general, like
so
just
many things in general, right? It's
Yeah, it's
always
just
on the
kind of
onus
how-
of the player to be, on the up and up, and not the rest of the fucking hierarchy.
Yeah, I
I feel you.
want people to lay off the players. I think they're doing their
Yeah.
best. They're trying hard. I like them. I think that they're really putting themselves out there, and they're doing a good job. And I just see people online kind of blaming players all the time, like people giving poor Ben and Joel shit for wanting to get a haircut before All-Star break. Maybe that was a bad idea, but whatever. I mean, it's always the players that get shit, and I was like, it's a lot of people. Staff does it too. Remember, y'all, check us out on patreon.com/Miami Heat Beat for exclusive stuff like the Locker Room podcasts that are going to be exclusive to patrons. We're going to kind of upload those soon for the $5 patrons. $10 patrons get a watch party with us. Think about it this way. If you were going to go to a bar, Chat's making fun of me. Schmeeth and Smolnick in chat saying G with the be nice to players hot take.
It's not a hot
No,
take.
notice it came right after the Raptors talk about the coaches and stuff.
Yeah, I really just
G
came to
felt
Kyle's defense.
real
Yeah.
defensive
Wow.
here.
Yeah, you really saw
I'm
through
sm-
me.
I'm
hoping
smoking
nobody
you out.
noticed. I was hoping nobody noticed. For $10 patrons, you can watch some basketball with us. Now, think about it this way. If we were going to go have an event at a bar, if we were going to go to a Duffy's or a Sports Grill or a Flanagan's or whatever.
Not one with the Raptors coaches, hopefully.
Not one with the Raptors coaches. If you were going to go to one of those in a COVID-less world, you'd probably order some wings, have a beer or two, and talk, right? That's going to cost you more than $10. For a nominal fee of $10, you pay our beautiful staff. Every single person on staff gets paid. And you can help contribute to that, and you can hang out with us and talk about basketball. We did it last time. Jack, Brass, Franky, a couple of us were talking with our listeners and having a good time watching a Kings Heat game. So get in on that. We're going to schedule that for hopefully next week or the week after, whatever's best for you guys. We let you guys kind of dictate the schedule, and we'll keep y'all posted. So check out all the offerings on Patreon and here. Remember, so no stream tomorrow. Tomorrow we have off. There's no hangover time. Brass Jazz just tuned into chat. Says, how much has G mentioned Harry B today? Frankie, how many times have I mentioned Harry B today?
Enough.
What do you mean enough?
0 times, Brass.
0
That's
times. You
enough.
did good.
Thank you.
Good.
Check out all our offerings. So tomorrow no stream. Wednesday we have a podcast with a special guest. I hope we can do that. I have 2 guests actually. That's gonna be exciting. So be on the lookout for that. 7 p.m. And then Hangover Time, your normal scheduled programming. Hangover Time pregame show, Thursday, Friday. Locker Room Thursday morning and Friday morning. Recovery Time with Alpha and I. So be on the lookout for that. We love y'all. Stay safe. Hopefully, we
Listen to Stream Beat.
Hey.